This is like no storm in the record books.
Oh my God. Oh, we got a whiteout going on.
It's like being inside of a car wash. Blasting curtains of rain, so much energy all around you.
Winds are gusting to hurricane force now.
This entire city is in the dark, and there's just this massive multi-structure fire, and no one's there to fight it.
We're gonna attempt to save these people.
I just kept urging people, please stay off the roadways.
Oh, come on, sweetie.
Oh my goodness.
As temperatures rise all around the globe, natural disasters are becoming more violent and more frequent. Extreme weather survivors have captured the intensity and the magnitude of these events. These are the first-hand accounts of a planet going rogue. In the past 2 decades, hurricanes along the North American coast have grown more powerful and destructive. Hurricane Katrina breaches the levees of New Orleans, the city's last line of defense. Hurricane Harvey slams Texas and shuts down 1/5 of the U.S.'s fuel output. And in October 2016, Hurricane Matthew wreaks havoc across the continent, beginning in Jamaica, Cuba, the Bahamas, and Haiti. Then charging all the way up the U.S. coast to Canada.
Holy mackerel.
Killing hundreds and displacing millions. By October 6th, Matthew has already decimated parts of the Caribbean and is bearing down on the Florida coast. Meteorologist Brian Norcross is quick to recognize the danger that lies ahead.
So Matthew's moving through the Caribbean, and the storm exploded in strength. And then as it came north, we were very fearful that this giant hurricane was going to come slamming into the coast.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Tony. They just updated the storm, and it looks like it has gained strength.
Tony Kazaza lives on one of Florida's barrier islands. Like everyone on the coast, he's scrambling to get to safety.
It's a lot. There's a lot to think of. You've got a family, the kids. Make sure you have everything, you know, that you need. Where are you going? Are you going to a hotel? Most hotels were sold out within a 6-hour drive.
With nowhere left to go, a friend who lives inland offers Tony a place to stay.
And as I loaded up my truck, reality struck, and it's like, I may not come back to this home.
I have some friends who are staying here on beachside, and I wish they weren't. I've been through earthquakes, I've been through tornadoes, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm scared.
Most Floridians know all too well the devastating power of a hurricane. The last major hurricane to slam into the coast was Andrew in 1992. It was one of the most destructive hurricanes in the history of the United States. Just like Andrew, Hurricane Matthew starts as a tropical storm system off the coast of Africa. But as it heads west, it grows into a powerful cyclone that swirls around a low-pressure center, or eye. When Matthew reaches the Caribbean and southern U.S. coast, warm surface waters fuel its growth and turn the hurricane into a deadly killer.
If you're watching and you're in an evacuation area, get out. Don't take a chance. Time is running out. This is clearly going to either have a direct hit or come right along our coast, and we're going to have hurricane-force winds.
Many Floridians respond to the governor's plea. Drinking water, food, fuel, and other basic survival supplies quickly sell out. But many people choose to ignore the mandatory evacuation order.
And I get a call from the president of the network, and he tells me that the reporters that we have stationed up and down the East Coast are saying people here are not taking this seriously. They're not evacuating in large enough numbers, and a lot of them aren't even really preparing in a big way for this storm. And he said, I think maybe we should do a message and really convey our concerns and our thoughts about the potential here for the loss of life. I'm Senior Hurricane Specialist Brian Norcross, and I want to talk to my friends in Florida. We are concerned about reports of people deciding to stay in areas under mandatory evacuation orders. This is a mistake. This is not hype. This is not hyperbole. And I am not kidding. I cannot overstate the danger of this storm.
Evacuating motorists create gridlock on the roads heading inland. Public shelters are overflowing, and the residents who remain behind have a violent storm headed right for them. As Matthew begins to strike the coast, Tony Kazaza reaches his friend's place just minutes ahead of the storm.
Here we go. First band arriving.
Yep, it's about to get real.
You see the clouds moving in. You see the bands of rain start to happen. And what's to come and the unknown of that, riding a storm out in a home with boarded up windows, there's no light to the outside. It's just sounds. Oh my God. And I don't know that I'll ever unhear them. They were scary.
120 kilometers north of Tony, hurricane tracker Mark Sudduth is rushing to keep ahead of the storm.
Take a look at the radar. This is the band that's passing over New Smyrna Beach right now. Farther down to the southeast here, you can see the edge of the heavier part of Matthew coming into view.
Mark has an array of meteorological equipment to set up to measure and track the approaching storm.
So I set up the anemometer system to measure wind speed, the barometer to measure the pressure.
The National Hurricane Center depends on real-time observations from storm trackers like Mark to help verify their forecasts.
Matthew is now closing in to either make landfall in Florida or get that core right up to the coast. And there's this big fear that it might reach Category 5. I'm thinking, okay, that's not good. And the clock is running down to 0.
Hurricanes are ranked by the Saffir-Simpson wind scale, which uses a 5-level rating system based on sustained wind speeds. A Category 1 hurricane can result in extensive damage to trees, roads, and homes, and cause power outages. A Category 5 storm flattens structures and landscapes and renders large areas uninhabitable for months. On the night of October 6th, the eye of this punishing Category 4 hurricane is just off the Florida coast and battering the land with gusts of over 180 kilometers an hour. The next morning, an oceanside condo in New Smyrna Beach gives hurricane tracker Mark Sudduth a ringside seat to the gathering storm.
I'm going to turn the camera around and show you my world. Winds are gusting to hurricane force now. Unbelievable.
I wake up because you can just feel the building shuddering. You hear stuff rattling, and I jump out and I go out to see what's going on. And it's like being inside of a car wash. It's just blasting curtains of rain and so much energy all around you.
The way the wind just blasts that rain down, amazing. The transfer of energy to the surface over there. Look at that, those downbursts, wow.
And the eye on the eye wall is a few miles just offshore, but it's closing in.
Oh my goodness.
With South Florida in its wake, Matthew charges north. Next stop, Daytona Beach.
Never gone live, but I just woke up and here we go.
Jimmy Anthony ignored an evacuation order, thinking he could take shelter from the storm in his home. But now, he isn't so sure.
Jesus. My poor doc. Holy smokes.
I checked the news, and that's when they said basically it was still beelining for us. The news portrayed it as like the worst storm since Andrew. And that's when I kind of was worried about the choice that I had made to stay. And I was actually terrified.
Oh my God. Still got a few more hours, still high tide even. These waves are not good. Woo-wee. The impact of the storm was happening at the same time as the high tide. So it was just like, would you say the perfect storm or the horrible scenario? That's what it was. Oh, what the heck's going on? Oh, we got a whiteout going on. Oh my God. Oh my God.
In the past few years, hurricanes have become more powerful and more destructive. The year 2016 was no exception, when Hurricane Matthew's brutal assault on the Caribbean left hundreds dead and damaged thousands of homes. Now, Matthew is rampaging up the Florida coast and gaining strength by the minute.
Oh,
in Daytona Beach, punishing winds and a rising tide threatened to demolish Jimmy Anthony's home.
I think right now my main concern is this seawall. If it goes, I don't know what the hell would happen. I don't know if the house would start to go or what. The seawall was being collapsed, like the dirt was being eroded from behind it, because actually the waves were going over it and then washing it. Oh man, something just popped. I think one of the pylons. Oh, the seawall's going, it's gone. Oh, the seawall is gone.
Without a seawall to shield his valuable beachfront property from the storm, Jimmy decides to say goodbye. He calls his cousin Jed, who's riding out the storm a few miles away.
I got in communication with my cousin, and I was like, I think the house is gonna go. Maybe just come pick me up. I'm going to be getting out of here. 30 feet of yard and seawall are gone in about 30 minutes. Oh, if it falls. Yeah.
But just as the waves begin to swallow up his backyard, Jimmy gets a lucky break.
I had a shuffleboard court, and it ended up falling and creating another seawall.
Shuffleboard might save us.
And that's when we were like, all right, are we gonna go or are we gonna try to do this? And we were like, let's try to do it.
Jimmy and his cousin get down to work, building a makeshift seawall.
Whatever we could pick up, we threw in there. My neighbor had some rocks and some stuff over here. I literally grabbed the carpets from underneath my dining room table and my living room, ripped those out and threw those out there. I just had done my dock, so I had some old boards that we threw in there. The grill, barbecue grill, a tile cutting saw, I threw that in there. We threw everything at it but the kitchen sink. We didn't do that.
But this is what we've done. We threw everything at this son of a... We don't back down. We get it done.
Jimmy and his cousin aren't giving up, but their troubles are far from over.
Well, really need this thing to stop.
The gale force winds and high tides are only a preamble to the menacing main event, the storm surge.
Oh my goodness.
Here's what storm surge means in very real terms. It means you can't survive, because even if the water is only 3 feet high, look at it come up on the scale here and look what happens to cars. Cars get washed away. Everything that's at ground level finally gets moved out, because it's not just the height of the water, it's the push of the storm behind that water. Matthew is approaching the Central Florida coastline, and this is where the maximum storm surge is going to occur. And people in Central Florida don't have any experience really with storms coming in that way. I know that because I grew up there. Now, imagine it goes to 6 feet. Now we're over my head. It's completely unsurvivable because this water is moving. It's not just lifting. It's not like you could float in it. You'd be swept away, full of debris, full of all kinds of chemicals. The ocean is incredibly powerful. If you go a little over 3 feet this way, about a meter this way, and a meter that way, and a meter that weighs almost a ton. And if you think of the ocean full of tons of water plowing onto the shore, the damage can be spectacular and it's impossible to survive that.
While the central Florida coast contends with destructive storm surge, in the skies above, a completely different kind of battle is underway. The hurricane hunters are collecting data for the National Hurricane Center to help with forecasting the path and intensity of Matthew. The flight director is 37-year veteran Jack Parrish.
These flights are really intense. You fly a long time through light to moderate chop. And then you fly through rain bands and it gets a little choppier, but you never mistake an eye wall. Almost all of the energy of the storm, copious rainfall where you think you're flying a submarine rather than flying an airplane, and you're seeing the airplane jumping up and down, the people jumping up and down. The reward is, once you get through that area of greatest hazard, then you're going to come into that pristine eye. You look left and you look right and you see the stadium of clouds around you. The only trepidation is the only way back out is the same way you got in.
In the course of a single flight, the hurricane hunters' aircraft can punch through the eye wall a staggering 10 times.
The P-3 aircraft is bristling with radars. What we're trying to do is to map out the areas of the strongest winds. Is this storm getting stronger? Is the pressure dropping? Are the winds getting stronger? We're transmitting data in real time. We have bursts of data that go out every 10 minutes.
One of the hurricane hunters' favorite weapons for collecting data is the drop sonde.
A drop sonde is a 1-pound fiberboard cylinder, and it drops down out of the airplane. It uses a parachute to slow its fall and orient itself, so it'll do good weather observations on the way down. And it transmits data back to the airplane 4 times per second.
Jack's team sends their data to the National Hurricane Center for analysis.
The data coming out of the aircraft, we read their analysis to understand how it's going to affect the land and how it's going to affect people. Let's look at the late advisory just in from the National Hurricane Center. Category 2 hurricane now, 110-mile-an-hour winds.
Although Matthew has been downgraded to a Category 2 storm, winds and storm surge are still keeping communities in its path on high alert.
Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Take a look now at the latest track forecast for Hurricane Matthew. What I'm going to do is start pulling up shop and heading up the coast along I-95 and try to get into South Carolina. I have a camera in Charleston that runs for 66 hours. I set it up, I don't remember when I set it up, the other day. It's going to run out tomorrow.
My camera system in Charleston at the harbor is still running, but I wasn't sure if it was going to continue to run through Saturday morning when Matthew now looks like it's going to make a pretty close approach, if not landfall right in Charleston or nearby.
But I want to get up here to the Charleston harbor and replace the batteries so that we can monitor what happens as Matthew moves up. So that's what's happening. I am in New Smyrna Beach getting ready to depart, and the highest wind that I recorded on the weather station over on the Causeway Bridge was 93 miles per hour.
There's nothing safe about the trip he's about to embark on. To reach his camera, Mark will have to travel through hurricane-force winds and blinding rain.
It's very dangerous because you're getting hit by wind from the side and torrential rain so hard in some cases that you just can't see even 100 feet in front of your vehicle. And you got to just grip that wheel and focus. That if you make one mistake, it's all over.
Mark arrives in Charleston just in time to install fresh batteries in his camera.
I arrived around 11 o'clock Friday night, changed the batteries out. There was nobody downtown in Charleston. That's so surreal to see it like that. But it allows me to get in, do my work, and then get out of there.
A few hours after Mark changes the batteries, the outer edges of Matthew pass over South Carolina.
Even though I'm capturing meteorological data with the anemometer that measures the wind speed and the gust, etc., I also want to be able to capture visual data.
The visuals speak for themselves. Within a few hours, the Charleston Harbor is submerged under 6 feet of water. An extraordinary event that gives Mark and scientists critical insights into future hurricanes. Matthew is now marauding across the Carolinas. Over 160 kilometers inland, Officer Asia Cannon uses a military surplus vehicle to patrol the city center.
Please stay indoors. Do not try to go down these roads. These roads are flooded. Your car will stall out and you will be stuck.
There was no sign of that rain stopping at any point. No one realized the dangers that actually lied ahead.
Hey, there's somebody over there to the right.
Hurricane forecasting has significantly improved in the past decades. Yet despite all the warnings, every hurricane season, the weather's fury causes death and millions of dollars of damages.
Oh my goodness.
In 2016, after tearing up the Florida coast, Hurricane Matthew advances into the Carolinas.
This flooding is dangerous. Please stay indoors.
In Fayetteville, police officer Asia Cannon patrols the flooded streets, searching for people in distress.
All right, guys, right now we are live. We are on Robinson Street.
There was no sign of that rain stopping at any point. So I kept urging people like, hey, please stay off the roadways.
As you can see right now, there's a car stuck in the roadway. We're in police rescue 2. We're gonna attempt to save these people. We're not sure if they're still in their vehicles. You see anybody?
No, it's clear. It's clear.
Okay, guys, that car is clear. But as you can see, these roads are flooding. Robinson Street, guys. We're on Robinson Street. Hey, there's somebody over there to the right.
I remember as we get to the Robinson and MLK intersection, and we see this car at this off-ramp, and I see a lady. It's like she's standing on her car seat, trying to stay above the water.
If you guys can see, this is why we encourage people. Please stay indoors. Do not try to go down these roads. These roads are flooded. Your car will stall out and you will be stuck. All right, guys. Police Rescue 2, we're going to try to back up to this lady here, and we're going to try to get her in here. Hold on, ma'am. He's going to come out.
And that's when you realize, like, hey, she's really in danger because she's just a couple moments from having nothing else to really sit on. And as we're pulling her from the vehicle, this child just came out of nowhere.
Oh, come on, sweetie. Oh, it's okay. Come here.
And, you know, my heart sunk. We're talking about a 1 or 2 year old child that's in this situation, and Lieutenant Joyce handed him to me, and he's cold, he's screaming, he's crying.
Look, guys, I just made a new friend. Hey, cutie. Her car got stalled out. She got caught up in the flood. She has her child with her.
They were in a very dangerous situation. The car was almost to a point where it could have possibly floated away.
Again, guys, we encourage everybody, please stay home and stay safe.
Matthew is now a Category 1 hurricane, but its destructive power remains undiminished. More than half of the 46 American fatalities occurred during this phase of the storm, many of them motorists trapped in washed-out vehicles.
Matthew was bringing this tremendous amount of moisture with it. Category 1 winds are still quite strong and can do damage right at the coast. But the big threat was that moisture, and that moisture was going to dramatically impact North Carolina.
Flash floods submerged roads and wrecked thousands of homes. On October 8th alone, rescue workers on land and by air assist over 1,000 North Carolinians. And back on the coastline, the tale of the 400-kilometer-wide storm whiplashes Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. News reporter Summer Dash is at the center of the action.
We want to check in now with Summer Dash. She has been roving, if you will, throughout the area, giving us a tour. And where are you right now, Summer, and what are you seeing?
Well, you guys, we weren't planning on being in the car for this live shot, but we had to jump in the car really fast. That's what we just got out of. We were perfectly fine 10 minutes ago, and then all of a sudden that stuff comes up really, really quickly on you.
After the storm surge nearly sweeps Summer away, she and her cameraman retreat to their hotel on the other side of town.
We're driving back to the hotel, and we can't get to the actual hotel parking lot because Ocean Boulevard was flooded.
Reporter Dash and her cameraman abandon their vehicle and continue on foot.
We have just barely made it back to our hotel here. Take a look at what it looks like down here. So this is Ocean Boulevard and Main Street. It is entirely flooded.
There's no one in this hotel except for us in our little oceanfront room, and the power's out, the elevators aren't working. So I get this text message from one of my police officer sources in North Myrtle Beach, and he says, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I don't think you should leave your hotel because if something happens to you, I can't come save you." Within seconds after I get that text message, my boss calls me and says, "Hey, there's a really bad fire, we need you to go."
By the time she gets to the scene, the fire is burning out of control.
Summer Dash here, we're in North Myrtle Beach. This is the Cherry Grove area, a fire right now here. I'm gonna try to get you a little bit closer here. Give me 1 second.
This entire city is in the dark, and there's just this giant light from fire.
We were talking to some firefighters earlier today. Police, they said, you know, with the wind so high, they were not able to come out here and fight this fire.
This is a massive multi-structure fire, and no one's there to fight it.
The winds were just too strong. We have a policy, anything over 45 miles an hour, nothing goes out. And the winds were probably sustained 50, 60 with gusts higher.
The apparatus from the engines to the trucks, they just act like a sail when you're driving down the road, and they can blow them over.
And then with the high tide, with the flooding, trying to get an engine down in there was going to be next to nil.
It's a little tough knowing that you can't respond to a fire when that's your job.
At around 7 p.m., the National Guard offers to transport firefighters in an armored vehicle, stable enough to navigate through wind and water.
I loaded up with the military, and 2 other firefighters went with us.
We hooked in straight to the hydrants. We got 2 lines in place.
They have these little hoses, and I can see they're not shooting the hoses on the flames. They're shooting them on the condos next door that aren't on fire yet.
I think, you know what, this third one just caught fire. This is now 3 buildings, plus these large villas over here. There goes the front of that building.
We didn't know how much longer we could hold it. And probably 45 minutes into that operation, the winds finally dropped down to that 45. And so yeah, they were able to start getting engines in there.
All right, here is the first fire truck we are seeing of the night has just arrived. Looks like they've got the really strong hoses out now.
We had the engines and the towers so we could up the pressure, so we were able to actually kind of overcome the wind.
In just a few hours, the fire destroys 3 entire housing units. And there's not much Summer can do but record it.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Really a sad situation, you guys.
My mindset when I'm doing this video is just, I know that this is a hard thing for many people to be watching. I know that. And I know that a fire means someone lost their home. And I know that this fire may mean someone died. I have no idea if anyone is in that rubble at this point.
Back inland the following morning, rising floodwaters have brought chaos and destruction to Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Hurricane Matthew, they only told us it's gonna be about 10 inches of rain. Obviously we can see that is a lot.
Cuevas Hart is a war veteran, but he's never seen anything quite like this.
I was in total shock. I didn't believe that the water could even get this high. It was pretty devastating. You know, it came through here, pretty much no warning. I've never seen anything like Matthew, ever. There were roads washed out, there were trees down, there were cars flooded out, and I stumbled across this neighborhood that was completely submerged underwater.
When Hart goes live, a man in Texas immediately replies. His brother is trapped in one of the houses. The 2016 hurricane season was not the busiest or the costliest, but it was one of the deadliest. After devastating the Atlantic coast, Hurricane Matthew buries inland North Carolina under a deluge of floodwaters.
Look at that, another road closed. Dang.
Fayetteville resident Cuevas Hart hopes he can save a man's life by using his drone.
I take my drone back and just get a big aerial shot, and I can see a boat off in the distance.
Using his drone as a guide, Hart leads the rescue team to the house where the man is trapped with his dog.
I didn't feel like a hero because I came to find out that this guy was a veteran. I'm a veteran. He served, I served. I feel like it was my duty to help my brother at that point in time.
As Hurricane Matthew makes its way up north along the Atlantic coast, the winds subside and the skies turn bright and blue. And yet panic begins to spread as people are forced to flee their flooded homes in search of food and shelter.
It is getting really serious now here in Kinston in Lenoir County.
It's a script hurricane tracker Mark Sudduth has seen play out before.
Now you have this next part of the disaster, sort of the last chapter, whatever you want to call it, of the river flood. And that literally took days to unfold.
Back flooding into places, traffic jammed up everywhere, people panicking, trying to get out.
We knew as it was happening that there was a massive flood threat, but we didn't know the scope of it and exactly who was going to be affected. And I don't think we had an appreciation for how bad it was going to be.
Houses flood, businesses flood, schools are having to close down, children are now delayed for school. It's just this cascading effect.
When you get that combination of heavy rain at a higher elevation and over an extended area, so all of the tributaries coming down to the river are all full when they reach the big rivers that go to the coast, you end up with a massive flood, and that's what we had in Matthew.
Matthew is now a tropical storm, but instead of fizzling away offshore, it merges with a low pressure system, builds up in size and power, and heads north. Destination, the Canadian Atlantic provinces.
Tonight, furious flooding. The remnants of Hurricane Matthew have pummeled Cape Breton Island with hurricane-style rainfall and flooding and tropical storm force winds.
So you had all this tropical energy sort of pulled out of Matthew itself, the tropical cyclone, absorbed into an entirely different storm system that went up and dropped 6 to 10 inches of rain in some portions of southeast Canada.
The streets and the roads and the basements, many of them are still waist deep in water tonight. The schools were closed today. Many thousands of people in Cape Breton and elsewhere will spend at least another night without power.
Wow, I've never seen it like this.
Hurricanes are not, alien to the Canadian Maritimes, but it's not a regular occurrence. And so from the Caribbean islands all the way up into the Canadian Maritimes, Matthew left its mark.
Holy mackerel.
After a violent rampage lasting more than a week, Matthew finally breaks apart in the North Atlantic. In its wake, millions are left to recover. But the worst off are the most vulnerable.
We have been getting updates from everywhere, and by now, everyone can tell it's not good.
Wanda Tima is a member of a large delegation of Haitian Americans preparing a relief mission for survivors on the southern tip of the Caribbean island.
This is stuff that people have been dropping off from all over the country. We have clothes, we have canned goods, we have maxi pads and alcohol and Band-Aids, but we need stuff like Tylenol, we need peroxide.
I was definitely surprised at how fast the community came together and the urgency that everyone had. Anytime you hear anything is headed towards Haiti, you're nervous.
8 days after Matthew slammed into Haiti, Wanda and her delegation of volunteers leave on their mission.
We are officially in Haiti. We just landed. We have all of our crew here. We're packing bags.
So we're outside the airport, all the bags are coming off, and we're loading the trucks.
We have our Hannah nurses here with us.
As Wanda and her fellow volunteers leave the airport, the harsh reality of the situation hits home.
Sitting on the bus, you're already seeing the devastation. Flooding, roofs are gone, houses are gone. At this point, we know exactly how bad it was, and it was bad.
For more than a week, Hurricane Matthew delivers chaos and destruction to the eastern seaboard of the United States and up north into Canada.
Wow, wow, wow. Unbelievable.
But it's the Caribbean where Matthew hits the hardest.
Matthew was an extreme hurricane in the Caribbean. We've never seen a Category 5 that far south, so close to the South American coast, and it strengthened at this unbelievable rate from 80 miles an hour to 165 miles per hour in the blink of an eye.
With an overall death count of 603, Hurricane Matthew killed more than 550 in Haiti alone.
It was an incredible tragedy in Haiti and the extreme eastern part of Cuba. A tragedy beyond what they've never seen in those parts of those countries.
We are officially here after 6 hours of driving.
Wanda Tima and a delegation of Haitian American volunteers were among the first to offer assistance.
As soon as the buses would pull in, you just see everybody go, ah! They'd be waving, and people were so happy to see us. And it was like happiness to, I need to be seen right now. I'm hungry, I need this, I need that.
They sit here and basically wait in line. And they're seeing them one by one or as a family. And once they're seen by the nurses, we have all the stuff here for them.
So each of the locations we went to had between 800 to 1,200 people. You're thinking, wait, how are the nurses gonna do this?
Yeah, okay. It's okay, we got you.
And I realized right away, Haiti's not ready for any kind of disaster.
Back in the U.S.
Here is a view. This is actually coming inside the home.
You don't really know where to start.
A stunning home video makes national news.
Chairs are floating around. I never thought we'd get this much. The reporters up there kind of narrating my story. And that's when you realize, this is real. This is really happening. It's not going away. And you just kind of feel lost. What's going to happen next?
Jody's house in Fair Bluff overlooks the Lumber River, which has completely breached its banks.
When I open the front door, I look out, and the sunrise is pretty, the birds are singing, the sun's out, and it's just this nice, steady flow of water running through. The whole town had been taken, by the water. It's kind of a numb feeling, really. Sometimes like you don't know what to feel because you've never had to feel in that situation. There's a nice current going here. Downtown. I really realized how bad it was. It just looks like a big lake with houses in it, a bridge crossing and a railroad. I think it humbled a lot of us. It pulled the town together. Everybody, I think, is even, a lot closer now than they were before the flood. I think we all live our lives with the future in mind, our goals and where we're going to be in 10 years and 20 years. And you realize, well, everything I've worked for up until this point is gone.
As the story of Hurricane Matthew recedes into history, the people and communities left in its wake now face an uncertain future.
Obviously, there's a fear that we're going to keep getting these strong hurricanes hitting the coast. And that's a good fear, actually. We have to build better, we have to prepare better, we have to be more resilient. we're going to live near the water, we have to acknowledge the water is going to come in. So we have to let the water come in and go out and have a way of going about living.
For the survivors of Hurricane Matthew, the fury and power of the storm is an unforgettable and traumatic memory.
Look at this wave. Look at this wave. Oh my God. That's a 5-foot wave and it is blowing.
But to expert meteorologists, Hurricane Matthew and other hurricanes that followed, including Harvey, Irma, and Maria, all contain a dire warning for the future.
I'm hoping that the hurricanes that we've had recently will trigger people and governments to acknowledge the threat that a hurricane can come any year, and it can be a bad hurricane. We just have to acknowledge that and build for it for a good future.
In Fayetteville, Army veteran Cuevas Hart, who used his drone to rescue a man and his dog, is brainstorming on how to turn his hobby into a business.
I've seen that drones could be used in a lot of places, especially emergency management. You know, having drones go out, you know, they save time, money, the police, the fire department, you know, the rescue teams. So that's my mission, you know, seeing how we can innovate drones into these first responders, you know, having drone operators on duty that could do what I did professionally.
In North Myrtle Beach, news reporter Summer Dash searches the rubble of the Cherry Grove fire for hope and a story with a happy ending.
People ask me a lot of times, how do you deal with all the sad stuff you cover? And my answer always is because of what happens after. The firefighters, they're not spraying the flames, they're saving this building. Those people meet the firefighters who sprayed that hose. The man who lost his condo, he has 20 years of memories in that home with his family, but people have come together and they're gonna rebuild that place, and that's positive. So as hard as it is to say these things, I know every single time I have to cover something bad, there's going to be a happy story I get to tell in the end.
In Daytona Beach, Florida, Jimmy Anthony's life is finally getting back to normal.
Thankfully, 1 week before Irma came, I was able to get the seawall done. And thank God, because everything would be gone.
Although Jimmy's decision to ride out Hurricane Matthew may have saved his home, the experience is not one he wants to relive.
Family's more important, and I want to be here with them. So what I did, it jeopardized all that. And I won't do that again, you know? Florida living. That's what it's all about right there, you know, in the end.
People who live on the coast are rebuilding. But as every hurricane season now brings new, powerful storms, they can only wonder if living with such destructive hurricanes is the new normal.
It's hard to look at Matthew and Harvey and Irma and Maria and not say things are changing. We can say that on average, the ocean water is warmer, and we've seen that increase the intensity of hurricanes. No matter what we do along the coastlines, the threat is increasing. The number of people are increasing, and sea level is rising. Both of those make the hurricane problem ever so much greater.
Well, I'm getting ready to go up to the Outer Banks, Hurricane Maria offshore of the Outer Banks, but it's going to bring some impacts up there, and so we're going to put some of the equipment out.
For hurricane tracker Mark Sudduth, the storms just keep on coming.
Tropical storm force winds, storm surge, flooding, high waves, all important data, even from a hurricane that's going to be almost 150 miles offshore.
But beyond all the measurements and data he collects, Mark remains sharply aware of the greater challenges that face him and everyone who lives in the hurricane zone.
We can't let these disasters fade from headlines and then we say, well, it's gone now, so we really don't have to worry about mitigation or adaptation. It's like, no, you have to look at these and say, we must do something to build stronger, build smarter, and live with these events. And I think to do that, you have to respect them and understand them And until we do that, though, we're going to fail every time. So we'll see. That's the chapter that's not been written yet.